We're going to be at Smith Summit on the dates November 2nd to November 9th.
There will be a booth there containing information about Code of Copper and various other data packs we've worked on, and we're also doing a panel about our upcoming datapack preprocessor called Zoglin on Sunday the 3rd. Come check us out, link in the description. Hello everyone. I'm Gears.
And I'm Moxvallix, and welcome to the Datapack podcast. Episode 14, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never remember. So this episode, we are trying out a new format. This is something we haven't done before. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be designing a data pack, a hypothetical data pack, over the course of this podcast episode. So something that's been on my bucket list for a while in terms of making a data pack is like a take on Minecraft's progression. So I personally feel like Minecraft's progression isn't as good and as fun as it could be. I feel like early game doesn't last long enough, and then I feel like late game kind of tapers off. So I've always wanted to address this with a data pack, and I have done actually a progression based data pack before. I made for the first data pack jam, I made a data pack called Patatcraft, which changed Minecraft's progression by introducing potatoes into all the recipes. But that was a joke. So in this episode, we're going to be coming up with ideas about a data pack to address issues we have with Minecraft's progression.
Honestly, I think adding potatoes to every recipe is that's the solution. I don't know why you even brought me here. You already figured it out
Guys,
years ago.
I solved Minecraft. Yeah.
Okay, well, end of episode. See you next time.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Moxvallix definitely has stronger opinions. You sort of came up with the idea of this in the first place, so I think I don't have that many preconceived ideas of how this would work, but I'm sure I'll be able to come up with something as we get going. But do you want to start us off with some ideas you've had?
Yeah. So my first major concern, I feel like, is that Minecraft's early game progression, I feel like it's far too short. And now what I mean by this is we have like the most obvious progression in Minecraft, and the one everyone is familiar with is the tools upgrade, right? So you start with wood, and you go to stone, you go to iron, diamond, etc. Right? Technically, late game you've got netherite, but I'm gonna ignore netherite for the time being, and just talk about the like stone to diamond transition. And I guess one of my issues I have is I feel like you can heat yourself out with diamonds in the first like 1 to 2 hours of playing the game, and then that kind of progression, the progression of getting your tools, kind of ends there. And obviously, you move into the enchantments progression since then, which I have separate issues with. But I think it would be cool to elongate the tool progression in. Now I haven't fully thought about how we could do that. Do you have any ideas, Gears, on that?
Yeah, well, it could be interesting potentially to maybe increase the complexity of, I guess, smithing armor or creating armor from raw iron, because it's pretty simple right now, right? So you've got your you mine the raw iron with the stone pickaxe, you stick it in a furnace with some coal, and then you craft it, and it's pretty simple to do that, right? I think I've mentioned it before, and I don't think played it, but do you know of a mod pack called Terra Firmacraft, or it's actually just a mod, a single mod.
Ah, it sounds vaguely familiar. I'm not. I don't. I've never played it or anything. I don't really know what it is. Um.
Yeah, so I found out about it when a YouTuber called Ilmango, who is part of the Psycraft server, did a series on it with some other people as well. But yeah, I was watching his playthrough of it. He was actually playing a mod pack called Auto Terraformacraft, which is basically Terraformacraft and Create mod and a couple other things, I think. But basically, Terraformacraft overhauls a lot of the progression system, actually. Um, and it sort of focuses on a lot of realism. So instead of just sticking iron ore in a furnace and waiting 10 seconds for it to cook, you got to create a whole system with like bellows to heat it up and a fire and a crucible, and you melt down the iron and then you got to pour it into molds and all sorts of things like that, and it creates quite an interesting experience, and it's super cool. I feel like I've never actually played it, but from what I saw from watching that series, it looked really cool. Especially because I'm always I've always been really interested in how stuff like that works in real life, like how you dig up the ore from the ground and make it into actual usable metal.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
but
refining the
some
metal and then. Uh.
yeah, exactly. Like, or even maybe there is still some way to get basic armor, right? You can have a sort of crude iron armor, which is just quite weak, but then you can go through a more refining process and you can make like steel, for example, right? Steel is similar to iron. It's made from iron, but it's a more complex process, right? You gotta add carbon to it, and then you create steel, and that could be stronger, and you could like have different layers within the single material of how strong a certain piece of armor is potentially.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we could add like like sub tiers of armor almost. So like iron could have stages. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, in terms of like adding bellows and like molds and everything, I feel like that would be a very complicated data pack mechanic.
Yeah, no, that's not necessarily how it would work in ours.
Mm.
That's how they do it in Terra Firmacraft. But yeah, I feel like some more complicated, because I quite like the way that crafting and related processes work in Minecraft, but
Mm.
I think some variation to that could be cool as well. Like, oh, also the way that you smith tools and armor, because once you've got the ingots, you then need to turn them into tools and armor. And another thing which I really liked is that it it's sort of a bit of a game. So basically, when you open the whatever it is, I think it's an anvil, right, that you use to shape your your iron into tools. You have to. There's basically a little slider, and you start somewhere, and the target is somewhere else on the slider. And there's a series of buttons which represent sort of different ways of hitting the the piece with the hammer and like shaping it. And you basically have, and each one of those moves it either to the left or right along the slider, and you have to get it to exactly where the target is in like as few as possible. And depending on how well you do that, it counts as being it can have like some buffs, meaning it's
Ooh.
smithed better or whatever.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
that was also a really cool thing
So it's
I
like a little
thought from
mini
that as
game
well.
to making the armor
Yeah,
piece. Yeah, that's actually I like that idea. That's quite a cool. I'm not sure how we would like represent that in a data pack. You might need to make a custom GUI for it or something. But
probably, yeah.
that
But
is a cool
also,
mechanic. I do like that idea.
yeah, we obviously wouldn't want to steal the mechanics directly from Terra Firmacraft, but
No.
taking some inspiration from it definitely
Yeah. But
would
like
be
I like
cool.
the idea of a mini game, like some way of being able to improve the armor with skill is a cool concept. Um
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. I want to drop something else. Another opinion I've got. I personally think that Minecraft's combat is geared around Iron Tier. I feel like at Iron Tier, the game is the most fun encountering mobs because I feel
Mm,
like they pose enough of a risk that, like, you know, they're scary to encounter, but at the same time, they're not like one-shotting you, right? They're not easy. They're not killing you too easily, but they're, you know, you're not completely vulnerable, but at the same time you're not completely invulnerable as well, which I would say I have an issue with very late game is you're pretty much invulnerable to most enemies you encounter. Like full
except for
netherite,
stuff like the warden
except for the warden, yeah.
at that point.
But even then, like the warden is such a rare mob to encounter and you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
just
you can't.
fly away from it.
The only time you'd fight a warden is really if you just wanted to take on the challenge.
Yeah.
That's one thing, you know, like I know they intentionally designed the warden so it drops almost nothing because they didn't want to make it so that players had to fight it, but also at the same time, that felt like it just meant players would never fight the warden unless they really wanted to.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't know.
from what I've heard, that there's like an internal policy at Mojang where they don't want to introduce any new mobs that you're supposed to kill. They're trying to
Right.
like move away from killing. Uh,
Yeah.
which I get. It's like, you know, kids game. Don't want
Yeah.
don't want to have too much killing, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of boring. Like I'll say criticism with the creaking, like the fact that you can't kill it. It's kind of like, okay, there's maybe some cool redstone implications, and it's kind of like it's got a little bit of a gimmick, but I feel like it's going to be completely forgotten in like a release or two. Like people are just not going to interact with it really because there's nothing interesting to do with it.
Yeah, and it's not really dangerous either.
Yeah,
Especially in multiplayer. Like, if you've been watching, I've just been watching the first few episodes of the newest Life series that's come out.
yeah,
And in multiplayer, if you have one person looking at the creaking, it won't move. So you can have one person look at it and then the other person just go and get its heart, and you can't, it
yeah,
literally can't do anything to you.
yeah.
Um, so it's not really a threat at all either.
Mm. And I feel like it doesn't deal that much damage. I think from what I was seeing in those videos, it was like 2 to 3 hearts of damage.
Yeah,
It's just a little, I don't know, mid. I suppose is the
yeah,
criticism I'd have there. Um, yeah, I feel like that's another issue. Is that yeah, mob scaling doesn't really work. Like mobs are at iron level, and I feel like
yeah,
after iron
and
level, it kind of gets less fun almost.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, once you've got prop for diamond or netherite, you pretty much aren't in danger in the overworld unless you get into a really sticky situation.
yeah,
Um, I mean, yeah, yeah. So I think another interesting thing that could be part of that could make progression more interesting would be to have some sort of choice so that not everyone ends up with the same result, you know? So pretty much it's not really debated that, you know, the best equipment you can have is sharp 5 diamond sword with
mm,
unbreaking and mending, efficiency 5 diamond pickaxe with or netherite, whatever, fortune, and then have one with silk touch, and then armor with protection and thorns, and basically you just get all the enchantments on it, and then everyone ends up with the same thing.
yeah,
But I feel like it would be so much more interesting if you had to make a choice. Like, you know how there's Smite, which does extra damage to undead mobs, and there's Bane of Arthropods, which is completely useless and does extra damage to stuff like spiders and silverfish, which, yeah, again, nobody's ever going to pick that. A few people do prefer Smite over Sharpness, but that's pretty rare.
mm,
But what if there was no Or what if there were more of those, right? So what if there was one which does extra damage when it's nighttime, say, or
Mm.
one that does extra damage when you're underwater, or things like that that like add an extra thing, and you're like, okay, which one do I want in my sword? Which one is most useful to me? Or I mean, I think that is starting to get more into like an RPG vibe, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if Minecraft really should go down that route. But yeah, I have been playing some like RPG games recently. I really like that aspect of having sort of two things which are good in different situations, and you got to choose which one fits you best or which
Yeah.
one serves you best.
Actually, I think this is a good segue into an idea for enchantments that I've been thinking about in terms of progression. And I mean, we're talking about the first thing I say, we're talking about a hypothetical data pack here. So it's less about what Minecraft should do and more about like what we think would make
Yeah.
a cool progression for us, right? Like
Hmm.
obviously Minecraft has to contend with the concept of vanilla, right? And now obviously we should probably try and make our hypothetical data pack vanilla-esque, you know, because we're aiming to be a replacement to Minecraft's progression. Um, but you know, Minecraft's got like what? How many years now? 12, 13 years of
15
existence.
now, right?
15 years, yeah, yeah, that's right. And it's like there's a lot of long-term players that will complain if they change anything minor about it, right? They're in a bit of a sticky spot with making changes, but we're not we don't have those limitations, right? We
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
we can make decisions that were like we can make decisions that aren't decisions Notch made back in 2012. Um,
Hmm.
some questionable decisions. And one thing I have as a criticism of enchantments is that any enchantment at a lower level than the max level is completely irrelevant. Like,
Yeah.
playing Minecraft, no one cares about sharpness 4, sharpness 3, sharpness 2, sharpness 1, right? People
Yeah,
care about
right.
sharpness 5. People care about efficiency 5, right? People care about only the max level enchants. And, I mean, one of the reasons for this, obviously, villagers. You know, you can roll them, you can just grind for hours, roll all the max level enchants, and then you have infinite of those enchants, right? And the
Which,
raw,
ironically, if you're watching on video right now, that's exactly what we're doing.
yeah,
But,
we've got villager rolling in the background, really interesting stuff. Um, enjoy. Uh, yeah, but it's so tedious and like, but you do it because the reward is, you know, unlimited free enchantments at max level. It's like there's a major incentive for players to do villager rolling, and I guess as well it's because like the enchanting table kind of sucks. Like you don't get that much control with the enchanting table, and you often end up with very disappointing results. And so people do the villager route, and it sucks as well, but at least it's reliable, right? And I think what the change I would make is I would have level of enchantment not be tied to the enchantment itself, but rather the tier of the item it's being put on. So
mm,
and then like you could tie that into the progression of the items, right? So in iron has maybe sharpness 3, right? And so when you put
yeah,
sharpness on it, it's at sharpness at a level of 3, right? But then when you put sharpness on a diamond, it's maybe sharpness at a level of 4, and sharpness on a netherite, sharpness on a level of 5, right? So it's like there's only one enchantment per level of item, I would say. Could be a interesting way of doing it, right? Another option, which you got me thinking about, talking about like mutually exclusives, right? What if maybe you could have maybe certain enchantments, like you could put sharpness 3 with this enchantment, but you couldn't put sharpness 5 with it, right? So
mm-hmm,
what if now I don't know how possible this is with the enchantment system as it is currently. You might
right,
have to
yeah.
make individual enchantments for the different levels um, to do the mutually exclusives like that. But what if, for example, what if Sweeping Edge, right, which is useful in mob farms or something, or like can be useful for dealing with a lot of mobs. What if Sweeping Edge wasn't compatible with Sharpness 5, but was compatible with Sharpness 3, or something like that, right? So you could choose to have a more variety of enchantments, but without the max suns, or you could choose to lower your variety and specialize kind of thing, right?
Yeah, what if there was like some sort of budget? You can have like 12 total enchantment levels, and then either you can pick sharpness 5 and something else 5 and something else 2, or you can pick 4 different things at the 3 level or stuff like that. That could be
Ooh.
interesting as well.
Yeah, I like that. And what if then instead of the tiers allowing certain levels, the tiers had a enchantment level budget, right?
Yeah, or a cost basically, and then once you go over the cost, would that be implementable with a data pack? How would that work?
You would
Just
have
trying
to
to think.
replace the anvil, I think. You would have to essentially.
Yeah.
That's the thing is that currently anvils are hard coded, which is a little annoying. It would be nice if we could customize anvil recipes, which I don't think we can. Yeah. I don't know how implementable that one would be. That's tricky with the data pack, but would be very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we could
That would be
theoretically
cool to
just
do.
have it like run a validation function, and basically if it goes over, it just modifies the item, which is less optimal, but
Yeah.
works, I guess.
But yeah, I think the idea before about changing the strength of the enchantment as per the tier of the item, I think that would definitely be implementable using custom enchantments, right? You should just be able to detect the tier of tool that's enchanted, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if like how the mutually exclusive system works. I think it just works on enchantment ID. So you might have to end up with different like IDs for different levels of the enchantment. So sharpness 5 being its own enchantment.
Yeah, I think that might be how you'd have to make it work.
And then they just all have a level of 1. I mean, it would be a bit jank, but then again, it's a data pack we're talking about. Of course, it's going to be jank.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that could be a cool system. I mean, obviously, like the most vanilla or the most data pack friendly one is just tying it to tier of item, because you can very
Yeah.
easily do that. Very easily say this isn't allowed on this particular item, but it is allowed on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Although I feel like that's, I guess, less interesting. But as well, I feel like maybe even limiting some enchantments, like maybe make some enchantments not be allowed on more early game tools, right? For example, you can, I don't know, there's sometimes you want to be able to get Silk Touch or something early game, right? What if the only couple of enchantments that could go on a stone pickaxe or a iron pickaxe was like Silk Touch and Fortune? So
Yeah.
so that you're more likely to roll it. I mean, there's not that many pickaxe enchantments, is there?
There's basically efficiency, fortune, silk touch, and then the shared ones, unbreaking
Yeah.
and mending. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, that's another thing, right? Because unbreaking and mending doesn't come from the enchantment table because it's considered a treasure enchantment, right? But
Yeah, so
villagers can sell mending books. So it's just another reason to go down the villager route, right? Because you're once again encouraged to use villagers because they sell mending.
yeah, the only other way to get mending really is fishing, and that's not really very
Fishing,
efficient.
or you can find it in end loot tables, but like,
Yeah,
come
but
on,
those aren't really renewable, are they?
no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed, like Minecraft was looking at, a villager overhaul, and there's an experimental
Yeah,
data
that's
pack
true, weren't they?
to doing it, and I think I I have a lot of praise for that because they split out the different enchantments that the villagers would grant into different biomes. So then if you're seeking a mending book, for example, you can just breed a villager in the swamp biome or whatever, and then you're much more like there's a much smaller pool it's going to roll from, and that like includes mending.
Yeah, so I think the way they did it is, I think they took the strongest enchantments and they made it. It may have even been guaranteed on the last level of villagers, depending on which biome they come from. So yeah, basically, if you got a swamp villager, which obviously swamp villagers you'd have to explicitly go there and breed it, so that would make it harder to get mending. But if you got some villagers to a swamp, bred them there, got a swamp villager, turned it into a librarian, leveled it up, you'd basically be guaranteed mending, and that would be the only way you could get reliable mending, really. And so that gives you a bit more of like an adventure rather than a grind, which is just basically breaking and placing the lectern continuously until they give you a good trade.
Yeah.
Which is definitely more interesting.
Yeah, I much prefer that because it means you can target right the enchantment that you want, right, and you just have to go out in the world and find that biome, right, which is usually not too difficult to find a swamp or a jungle or whatever. I hope mending's not tied to a jungle because jungles are actually difficult to find sometimes.
No, I remember it was definitely swamp.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It's definitely swamp mending.
Swamps are a lot more common, I feel like, than jungles.
They're still kind of rare, I think.
Yeah, they definitely are. But
certainly the lack of villagers in swamps made it a bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, because you got to go and breed
I never really
there.
played survival on that datapack. It could be cool to explore that a bit.
That would be worth a try. I reckon could be interesting.
Maybe we could add it to our podcast server for next time or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Another idea I had with villagers, like an alternate way of doing this. I do quite like the biome method, but another way you could have it where the villager kind of rolls 3 options and then allows you to pick one. So like every time it upgrades, it introduces like 3 new trades, and then once you do a trade with that one, it removes the other 2. I feel like that could be implemented with a data pack and could be just a cool way of like customizing the villager a little bit more. So it's like each trade it actually unlocks a set of trades, and then you pick which ones are the best kind of thing.
Yeah.
And another idea I also just had, sorry, I'm just spitfiring villager ideas, is what if there was a way to, reduce the price of a trade? Like, I feel like another thing you're constantly rolling for with villagers is the price. You want the optimum price, right? But what if you could just roll the enchantment you wanted and then spend a resource to whittle the price down to its minimum? That could be
right now, the meta is just zombify them and cure them multiple times.
But like,
which is also just kind of increasing the sort of grind that you need to do.
Yeah.
I think in the trade rebalance experiment, what they did is they made it so that they'll only give you a discount for saving them from a zombie once, and then after that, it's just stuck at like whatever it is, half off or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, some other way to decrease it could be interesting. One other thing I was thinking is, what if there was some other item or ingredient you could use to, I don't know if this would be with a villager or with an enchanting table, but to sort of either increase the probability or make it guaranteed that a certain enchantment gets rolled.
Ooh.
Like, say there was, this wouldn't be possible in a data pack, but say there was a 3rd slot in an enchanting table. And if you put like, I don't know what it would be, like a
diamond,
I don't know,
or something.
Yeah, if you put a diamond in, then it's more likely to be unbreaking, or it's guaranteed to give you unbreaking 3 or something like that. And then that will give you an extra way of getting reliable enchantments.
Mm. Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's a
But
lot.
obviously, you couldn't add a slot to the crafting or to the enchantment table GUI because that's not. Yeah,
Yeah. The
but
enchantment table is also not very customizable.
no.
Um, well,
But I don't know. Somehow,
mm.
yeah.
Another idea
I
is
was gonna say
maybe.
adding an ingredient to the the book trade for a villager, but you can only have two ingredients for that, and books already use up both of those, so that wouldn't really work either.
Mm, yeah, I think like going back to the issue with like enchantment levels, I feel like it's really got to be solved how to like resolve lower level enchantments, right? Because I feel like they're almost useless, right? And we obviously were talking about before, like having certain other enchantments incompatible with higher levels but compatible with lower levels, or like a level budget. But in other ways, we could just almost fully remove low level enchants and just be
Yep.
like, there's efficiency and it's just one level. And
Mm-hmm.
there's, and it just efficiency at one level is efficiency 5. Or there's, um, just unbreaking, just remove the level entirely and then maybe make enchantments harder to get or something. So
Yeah.
then it's less about roll or trying to find the highest level enchantment. It's more just about trying to find the enchantment itself. Um,
Or alternatively, we could do it sort of the other way round, where instead of removing lower levels, we just make it so that you can only get lower levels. And so to get efficiency 5, you've got to combine efficiency 1 books to get efficiency 2, and then efficiency 2 books to get efficiency 3, and
yeah,
basically work your way up. And sort of as you progress, you're like, okay, I'm currently on efficiency 3 and I'm breaking 1, and then oh look, I found an unbreaking book. Okay, now I can get unbreaking 2 and stuff like that.
yeah. And it should be possible,
Um,
right, with a data pack to keep resetting the anvil cost, right? Because that's like a weird design
yeah,
decision of the game is to have this
yeah,
anvil
that's one
cost.
thing that's really annoying. That yeah, you couldn't do that currently because yeah, you basically once you've put enough enchantments on, it both gets really expensive and also uh if it gets beyond a certain point, it just says too expensive and it's impossible to do, which is really stupid.
Yeah.
I forget, did they actually remove that in the experiment or not? I feel like people were saying because they were doing some in the experiment, they were doing something which sort of meant you would have to end up combining books in more steps. And then people were saying, yeah, if you want to do that, you have to remove the anvil cost. But I don't remember if they actually did that or if that was just people, or was that just something the community was saying that should be done.
Yeah, I don't remember
Mm.
them saying that they were gonna. Well, I don't remember reading about it being removed, but it might have been and I missed it. That's very possible. Um, but yeah, it should be very possible the data pack to just after an anvil use just reset that value in the item, right? Because
Yeah, is there a scoreboard trigger for using anvil or an advancement?
I think there's a scoreboard trigger. I don't know about advancement. Like, does it count as crafting? I don't think it does. I don't think there's an advancement related to it because I don't think there's any in-game advancements related to using an anvil, is there? I don't think
No,
so.
the only time anvil is mentioned on the wiki page for advancements is saying that it doesn't trigger enchanting an item.
Right. But I would
So yeah.
be. I think there's a scoreboard. Do you want to have a look on the criterion page? I reckon there is a
Yeah.
scoreboard. And I mean, it wouldn't be too expensive to just check once the player has a value in that and replace the item in their hand. Or actually, you would have to kind of search the inventory because it could be anywhere.
Interaction with anvil isn't the same. Apparently there's only interactions with anvil and
Mm.
not.
Okay, that's really annoying. It's still possible, but yeah, that makes things a lot more annoying. Uh, I mean, you
Yeah.
could technically be checking when the player is looking at an anvil, and then constantly scanning the inventory, but that would be expensive. Um,
Yeah.
or you have a resource that you can expend to clear the anvil uh,
That could make it work.
cost. So have a way
Yeah, do some process.
to like fix the item, I guess, or like polish. Yeah, probably like a polish item or something, and then it would reset its anvil cost. Which, yeah, I actually really like your idea of constantly upgrading the enchantments rather than finding higher level enchantments. And I really wish,
Yeah, I feel like that would give a use to the lower levels, at
mm,
least.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, so because like you find that enchantment and then it's like it's not just all lost, I guess.
Yeah. And also, due to how enchantments work, it also means that each level is progressively harder to get, right? Because obviously,
Mm,
level 1, you just need 1 book. Level 2, you need 2. Level 3, you need 4. By the time you get to level 5, you need 16
yeah,
enchanted books combined together. And so that's like a thing you could accumulate over time.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I don't know. We'd have to find some way that you don't just do that all with villagers.
Yeah.
I wish you could change the loot tables for villagers, or like how the villager trades are decided, because pretty sure they're just hard coded in the game code, right? You can't change them with data packs at all, except manually editing individual villager MBT.
Actually, I'm pretty sure with the villager experiment they added like ways to customize the villagers, right?
Oh, did they?
I'm pretty sure that
Maybe.
was part of that. I didn't fully look into it. I should probably look into it more, but I'm pretty sure they had some method of customizing the villagers. But yeah, the current way to do it is yeah, data modifying the villagers, which is sucky. Uh,
Yeah.
and I might be completely wrong on the experiment. We'll have to look into that. Uh, yeah. So okay, so that's tools and enchantments. Now, I feel like as well another thing uh that I personally really enjoy, like one of my favorite things to do in Minecraft is the caving. I think since 1.18 caving has been really fun and like I really enjoy doing it, like just going mining, right? But I feel like late into the game there's no really resource you need to go mining for outside of diamonds, right? It's like the only resource that is worth caving for. And I personally find that a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
I kind of wish maybe I don't know, like for example like gold, you can make a gold farm. Iron you can make an iron farm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh emeralds,
Diamonds you don't really need
yeah.
because you can buy them from villagers.
Yeah, you can buy all of the armors and tools from villagers and just grind the enchantments off and then replace them. It's like caving, like mining in Minecraft almost comes completely obsolete, which is kind of crazy because you know the it's like half of the game, and it's such a weird progression to me that it's like you can just bypass caving, I guess. Um, and so
Yeah, so yeah, go on.
I think
I'll say that
encouraging
afterwards.
players to go caving more would be good. I don't know if that means patching out iron farms, which is I kind of like iron farms. Or maybe patching out gold farm. Like I don't know. Gold's not very useful. That's the only other problem.
Yeah,
Uh,
gold farms, well, they're often used for experience. They often give quite a lot of experience.
yeah,
But yeah, what is gold actually used for? I guess
powered
piglin
rails.
bartering farms sometimes, powered rails, but yeah,
Yeah,
not a whole lot.
yeah.
But yeah, I think some late game mining could like incentive to go mining could be interesting.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like mining is such a fun part of the game,
Yeah.
and it's really just gets I don't know shunted. I guess once you Like I feel like I have the most fun in Minecraft when I'm in full iron gear and full iron tool set down in a cave trying to find my diamonds, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
And I kind
That's
of
a fun
wish
part
that
of the game.
that part of the game could kind of exist for longer, you know? I kind of
Yeah.
wish that, maybe diamonds, maybe diamond tools use diamond blocks instead of diamonds, or something like something stupid like that, just to keep you going longer,
Yeah.
or just make it that you
Yeah,
can't
because like
upgrade your tools until a certain point. Like, I don't know.
yeah. Well, yeah, because once you've got your diamond armor, once you defeated the Ender Dragon, pretty much all there is to do is like build and make farms. Like there's
Yeah,
not a whole lot, and like explore, I guess, but like yeah, that there's really not a lot of progression after that point, which I guess part of that reason is because it's a sandbox game, right?
yeah,
So, you know, um, but yeah, I feel like some more progression could be cool, like in the late game. One thing that that just brought to mind, like when you said upgrading after a certain point, is um in Terraria, which I used to play before I got into Minecraft. There is a certain boss. I mean, Terraria has a much more sort of guided progression system than Minecraft has, obviously,
yeah,
and there are a lot more sort of bosses that you have to fight to get to the next thing. But there's basically one boss which you fight at one point, and once after you defeat that boss, your game essentially goes into hard mode, and what that means is new sets of mobs start to appear, which are much more challenging and powerful than before, and even new kinds of ores generate in your world, so you can then upgrade your weapons and armor further and stuff like that, so that it actually changes the way that they like what kind of things generate and what kind of mobs spawn
yeah.
from that point on.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so yeah, you could have like a catalyst between certain stages of the game's progression. Uh,
Yeah, have something locked until a
mm,
certain point.
yeah. I mean, as for like replacing ores in the world and stuff, that's like not very possible, I feel like.
Not really, no, not with a data pack.
But you could make certain things like unobtainable until a certain point. Like
Yeah.
maybe Silk Touch or something is locked out or something, and then make some things need Silk Touch,
Mhm.
which that could be
Yeah, that could
interesting.
be cool.
Like imagine
Yeah.
if you couldn't mine diamonds until you had a certain enchantment on your pickaxe or something like that. And so, I mean, you could break the
Yeah,
diamond
that
block, but it doesn't drop anything until you have diamond touch or some stupid enchantment.
yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
like,
and you make that unobtainable until you have something.
mm,
How would you make an enchantment unobtainable until something's happened? I'm not sure how that would work actually.
well, you would have to make it like something drops the enchantment.
Oh yeah, I guess you'd have to make it not obtainable
Yeah,
by
you wouldn't put it in the
villagers or
enchantment table or in
enchantment
villages.
table. Yeah. You'd have to have some way of getting it. Yeah, and also having yeah, I think like having a finite. Oh, that is a good point actually. Which enchantments are the enchantments that villagers can stock? I think are controlled by an enchantment tag now, aren't they?
I think
Is that
so.
right?
Yeah.
So we could theoretically, if we wanted to just completely erase enchantments from villagers, just say, yeah, no, you can't get enchantments from villagers. That tag is empty.
Ooh,
Um,
yeah. That could be a good move.
or or like limit it to so you can't get certain things like I don't know. Maybe you could just get some of the less important enchantments and have
Hmm.
some of the more important ones obtainable via specific process that
Yeah.
we like explicitly add. So like to get sharpness, you gotta I don't know.
It's hard to
Um,
like add bosses and stuff. Like bosses are so hard to add to data packs,
yeah,
and it's not really our style of data pack either. I feel like.
No,
Um,
I didn't think I'd have a good time trying to try and design a boss.
I have a lot of respect for like boss developers with data packs because it is such a tedious process. And you've got to like be managing all these entities and you've got to like design it all in Blockbench, animate it all.
Yeah,
You've got to come up with all different waves. You've got to actually have unique things that aren't just applying potion effects. It's like
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
to make a good boss in a data pack is really hard. And yeah, it's a
And
lot
I
of
suck
work.
at that sort of thing, like really polishing a specific aspect. I really don't like that thing. I really
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I'm not good at that. So but yeah, I looked up the villager trade rebalance, and there's a table.
Yeah.
You can show it on screen now in the video. But yeah, basically they had a lot of the lower level enchantments. Basically, they're still villager like biome specific. So there's sort of three normal enchantments that each villager can randomly get. And then
Right.
there's a special one, which are like the most powerful ones: sharpness, protection, efficiency, fortune, unbreaking, silk touch, mending. Those
Yeah.
ones are guaranteed at the master level. But yeah, they're not the highest level. Like you can get sharpness 3 or unbreaking 2. So I think that's why people were saying, yeah, you can't give us that and still have the anvil cost, because that would just
Mm.
it just won't work. And I
Yeah.
don't remember if they actually ended up fixing that or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the villager trade rebalance is still experimental, and there was that snapshot a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago now, even, where they added a bunch of experiments and they updated the bundle one, which obviously the bundle is now no longer experimental and it's in the game.
Yeah.
But did they do anything with the villager trade rebalance? I don't remember.
Was that when they added the villager trade rebalance?
No, no, they added the villager trade rebalance last year, like over a
Oh,
year
when
ago
they did
now.
the enchantment stuff. Was it that time?
I think it was even before then, if I remember
Hmm.
correctly.
I don't remember
This
them
was
updating
like,
it. No, not really.
yeah, this was the first snapshot for 1.20.2 was villager trade rebalance.
Right,
So a
right.
long time ago now.
Yeah. I
Mm.
I wish they, went more into that. Because it is a major part of the game, I feel like that needs
But yeah, I
work.
think again they might have been a bit sort of hesitant to do it because people get angry about, oh, now I can't get enchantments easily anymore and whatever.
But it's
Um,
not easy. It's tedious. It's not fun.
yeah, I
Like the
know.
current villager trading is completely unfun. I'm sorry. If
Yeah,
you,
it's just mindless.
it's so
It's just
mindless.
mindless grinding, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
like I get some people maybe you like sitting there for hours grinding the villagers. Like I guess it can be good if you've got like a podcast on or something. It's a menial task, but it's like you can't call it gameplay. It's because it's not.
Yeah.
It's a grind, and I don't like it. Um, but yeah, honestly, I think they should remove the anvil cost just completely. It's a broken system.
Mhm.
It doesn't work. It's never made sense. Like no one, only really technical people actually understand how it works. It's like there are websites dedicated to enchantment order just so you know how to enchant something, which is
Yeah, you
wild.
gotta like enchant it. Like, yeah, you can save a lot of. Also, yeah, it's weird how like when you put two books in, if you swap them around, you can
Yeah.
sometimes get the cost to decrease, or sometimes it will increase. Obviously, if you had them the most optimal way the first time. But it's just so weird how it works.
It's a nonsense system and it's not fun and it's completely broken and it just means that lower level enchantments are useless. And it has to be scrapped. I'm sorry, like there's no redeeming qualities
Yeah,
to that system. And already the XP system is already a joke. So it's not like it's not like improving like upping the cost on that
yeah,
is
that's what
fixing
I was
anything.
gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think experience needs to be revamped as well.
Mm.
The only thing is, a lot of these aren't things we can change in a data pack. That's the problem.
Well,
Like,
XP you
well, I
can
guess,
kind of. We could overhaul
yeah, yeah,
XP.
yeah.
Because we can change XP, we can read XP, we can, you know, it is
Yeah,
technically a
but like the
variable.
calculation system for how much XP a certain enchantment combination costs, we can't really change that with a data pack, can we?
Yeah,
Unless we just went like full the anvil, we're just scrapping the anvil and we're creating our own system.
we could.
And that would get rid of a lot of things, like that would let us do a lot of things we were thinking about, like having
Mm,
a certain cost. We're like, okay, yeah, we can just block that because we implement all the logic for it.
yeah, completely replacing the
That could be
anvil.
cool as well.
That could be very
But it would be
cool.
a lot of work.
It would
But
be
I
a lot
mean,
of work.
this is all about a theoretical data pack, not necessarily one that we're ever going to implement.
And I
Even
mean,
though I am kind of excited to potentially implement this now that we've been talking
it
about it.
would be quite cool, honestly. And I mean, it's not like custom blocks are unheard of. We definitely could implement a
Yeah, yeah.
replacement anvil, and it's a pretty simple UI to re-implement.
It is,
Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, people have made custom crafting tables before you were allowed to do component crafting.
yeah,
Um, I just about managed to make one of those at one point, even though it's been so long since I did that. But yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult, I don't think.
yeah. I built a custom crafter using command blocks back in my day.
Oh yeah.
I also did a lot of floor crafting because that was a lot easier to implement.
Floor crafting's so much easier,
So
but it's
easy.
cool it's so much cooler to have a custom crafting
Oh,
table, which
100%.
is why I spent about 4 months on it.
Yeah. My custom crafting table required you to stand on top of the dropper. So that's how it worked. So you put the items in, then you stood on top of it, and then it
Oh
would
yeah, yeah.
craft. It wasn't a great system. It was a copy of someone else's system as well, but obviously changed to add my custom item.
Yeah.
I believe
My
as
custom
well.
crafting table
Yeah.
was like a full thing. It was like it looked like the crafting GUI basically.
Right.
Um, and it was like yeah, it had the slots and then the output, and it could handle like crafting multiple at a time and all sorts of things. It
Yeah,
was
that's cool.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a lot of work. And I did definitely like I had another person's crafter. I had like the code of it, and I was sort of like if there was a bit like I wasn't sure how to do it, I was like, okay, how did they do it? And then I like took some inspiration from that, and then I continued trying to
Yeah.
figure it out myself and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much how I learned how to make data packs. Is I just downloaded someone else's data pack and looked at it and worked it out from there. Oh god,
yeah.
have I? I don't
Um.
think I've ever talked about
Anyway,
my first data pack on this podcast, but I think I'll leave that for another time.
what melody blocks?
Melody blocks, yeah. Maybe I
I
have.
think you mentioned it. I think you mentioned it briefly one episode. I don't remember what it was.
Maybe the
It
first
was
episode.
no, no, no. It was maybe Datapack hacks
Ah,
or
right.
something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm pretty sure I
Um,
just copied. Like, I just used someone else's as a base and just swapped the files out because I didn't really understand the file
yeah.
structure at the time.
Or no, maybe it was premature optimization. Maybe you talked about it when you were talking about V255.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was my second release data pack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oof. Well, technically, Redstone Interactions was my second, which I tried to make a Redstone library.
I'm not sure I've
Redstone is
ever seen that
pain.
one.
No, you haven't.
I've seen Melody Blocks,
It's
and
tied
you told me
to
about Speed 255, but
Melody Blocks. It's how Melody Blocks work getting powered and stuff. It was like a library to work with blocks
oh
getting a
yeah,
powered state and stuff.
that's
Uh,
kind of cool.
it was kind of cool. It was janky, and it's really hard to work with redstone from commands. It might
Yeah,
be
yeah,
worth
I
me
know.
taking a crack at it again now that I know more
Yeah,
about data packs.
I've thought about that before, and yeah, I've never tried that because I'm like, that's gonna be tricky.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so okay, let's get a bit back on track.
yeah,
Um, another thing I think is a cool thing that doesn't really get used that much is potions. I feel
Yeah.
like it's pretty rare that you're gonna brew a potion and use a potion in
Mm.
single player at least. Like, I know they're often used in like multiplayer for manhunts, say, or PvP or things like that. You know, when you're fighting other players and that little extra strength or speed or something will give you the edge.
Yeah.
But in single player, when you're playing against mobs, when you're doing PvE, right?
Yeah.
When do you use a potion? Like very rarely, I feel like.
I think my most used potion would probably be like fire resistance, just for
Yeah,
going to the
fire
nether.
resistance. Some people use night vision. I personally just play in Fulbright quite a lot, so I don't use that.
Yeah.
Which
At
is kind
client
of,
for the win.
yeah, it's kind of hack, but
If you're listening to the podcast, check out Asteroid on Modrinth. You know, it's a hack client, but not cheating. So, just a shill. Link in description.
yeah.
Um, yeah. What were we talking about?
Potions.
Potions. Yeah. How would you encourage players to use them more? I feel like brewing is a bit obtuse. I feel like that's the problem. Is it's such a weird, complicated system, and it's another
It
one of those things where
is.
you got to have like the wiki open and like be looking at the chart
Yeah.
because it's hard to remember all the combinations. Um, what I
I
will
feel
say
like
though,
if you could create
yeah,
a brewing system
mm,
where rather than there being like a fixed set of things, you could sort of and this would be pretty tricky to implement in a data pack or even otherwise.
yeah,
Um but like various, I don't know, you could like add ingredients and they would each do slightly different things and you could create like a combination of ingredients and a combination of effects and something. Um
mm, yeah. Yeah, I've
but
always
yeah,
I've always had ideas for like that kind of thing, but like for spell systems. But I reckon it could work for brewing as well, where basically each ingredient has a set of attributes and basically or like has a almost like a number assigned, right? And
yeah.
when you combine all the different ingredients, the number creates like a hash of all the numbers that are combined, and then based on
Uh-huh.
that hash it's like a random seed for the outcome. So it's like
Yeah, so that like
so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like a
so
predictable every time it will do the same thing, right? But it's still like randomized, I guess,
yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, that could be cool.
but then
And you got to sort of figure out the different combinations and see what happens.
yeah, but then you could have like certain ingredients maybe change elements of the hash or something. Like it's this impacts the
Mm.
first two digits. This impacts like something like that, or like maybe there's like two or three hashes that they all impact, and then you can learn this does this kind of thing, and you can like you end up with like millions of possibilities almost, but you can kind of learn certain things impact it in this certain direction, certain things impact in this certain direction. I don't know if that would be better than the current brewing system. That might just be way more confusing. Because it's kind of like, well, actually, it could be fun. Uh, I'm assuming you've watched the second episode of the what life are we on?
Yeah.
Wildlife. Um,
Wildlife, yeah.
so yeah,
Spoiler alert
spoiler alert if you
if you
haven't
haven't
watched it
seen it,
yet.
you should go check it out.
Go
It's
check it out.
good. It's very
Brian
good.
always comes up with a very cool new premise
Oh,
for each life
that
series.
second episode was so fun.
Yeah.
I loved
Um
it so much.
and like the cool okay, so for anyone that's still watching has yeah, so okay. Should probably do this properly. Timestamp to skip the spoilers on screen now. And for anyone still sticking around, the second episode's gimmick is that all
Oh,
of the
by the way,
players.
sorry if you're listening audio only because you don't get a timestamp.
Yeah, if you're audio only, just skip like 2 minutes ahead. Sorry about
Or
that.
just watch the thing.
Or
Watch
just
the video, come
watch
back.
watch a wildlife and come back. Yeah. Yeah. So the gimmick for the second episode is that all of the players have hunger, right? So they're constantly losing hunger, and but every item is edible, but the effects of the items are randomized. So you could like eat a block of dirt and it might levitate you, or you could eat seeds and it might give you resistance. And so they're constantly trying to figure out which block is going to actually be a food, right, to restore hunger points. Because it's all random, like they're getting wild effects. Like players are like floating off into the void, into the ether, and then falling out of the sky, and all funny things like that, or getting nausea. And so it's this like
Yeah, and you got to figure out which things are food, and you get all the different effects in the meantime. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's such a cool concept because it's like this rush. You're like crafting items, you're like digging things, and it's this fast, frantic rush to figure out what everything is. But it's also like each time you're doing it, it's like a little bit of a gamble because like it could be something really bad. You could like get like, I mean, I didn't see wither amongst the effects, but you could get poison, and
yeah,
then like
poison. Yeah,
and it's like you get poison, and if you're starving, then one tick later you're dead, right? And like so. Yeah, it's like this. It's a really interesting episode, like a really interesting concept, and I quite enjoyed that wild card. And I feel like the potion system, we're describing there, could be similar to that almost, where it's like you're experimenting more.
Yeah,
because I feel like the current system doesn't lend itself to experimentation.
Yeah,
because it's like. Most of them follow a pattern, and I feel like almost just removing the awkward potion step would improve the feel of it a lot.
Yeah.
You know? Like, improve the flow, but I don't know.
Yeah, one thing that could be interesting is that, like, yeah, as you said, there could be, like, some sort of random thing, and also, maybe, one thing I've seen before in a game I played once, is that you can... It was sort of like an RPG game, right? And when you played, you could get all these different potions. But you didn't know what the potion did. It would just be like random. It would just be like a random name, and each time the random name would basically be randomized and did different things.
Yeah.
And then you had to identify it somehow, either by drinking it, or there were other certain ways in the game that you could identify it. And then you would forever know from then on, oh, okay, this is what this potion is.
Yeah.
And it would, like, show it to you and stuff.
That
so it could be an
me...
interesting thing like that.
Yeah, there's a game I played like that called Shattered Pixel Dungeon that does that.
That's the game.
That's the game. Okay.
That is the game.
So you've been playing Shattered Pixel Dungeon, I see.
There was a point where I was on a long car journey and I had it downloaded on my... I used to play it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then I had it downloaded on my phone, and it was a long car journey, and I got into it, and I played it a while, and it was fun. And yeah,
it's quite a fun game.
I didn't play it that much, really.
I do like that. Yeah, the roguelike aspect of that, like it's unidentified, and then you identify it. I think that is quite fun. I think, I don't know, but there's obviously, I saw at the Smith Summit, which is actually upcoming.
Yeah, we should put something at the beginning. I forgot to say it at the beginning, but we should put like a thing at the beginning talking about the Smith Summit.
Yeah, after this
hopefully
podcast,
you already heard that. If we didn't forget,
we'll
record it. Yeah,
we'll record a little promo segment. But yeah, one of the data packs I saw was called Roguecraft, and it's basically turning Minecraft into a roguelike. And I imagine they could have something similar there, with like randomized potions kind of thing. I don't know if they do, but it would be a cool mechanic.
Yeah.
But yeah, potions really do have a like discoverability problem and like usability, because they are kind of useful, but at the same time, there's just enough of a barrier to them that you don't feel like they're actually worth it.
Yeah.
Like, the things they do are useful. Like, it can be useful to have jump boost. It can be useful to have speed. It can be useful to have night vision. But it's such a pain to get the ingredients together and actually make the potion. And it's like, and also they don't stack.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just like, it's not worth having them in the inventory.
yeah,
Um,
making potions stack would certainly be cool.
yeah. And I know there's one player I know that really loves potions, Wolfian, who's been on the
Hmm.
podcast before. Uh, always every world we do has a brewing stand set up and brews a bunch of potions. But I think he might be the only player I've ever seen actually interact with the potion system. Like everyone else
Yeah.
just mainly ignores it unless they need fire breathing or something. It's like,
Y- yeah.
yeah, it's just too
I
painful.
think I think again, yeah, I feel like something like strength or resistance,
Mm.
there's not really ever a time in Minecraft where you're in a situation that's challenging enough that means that like
Yeah,
using a
that's worth
potion
it.
would be worth it. Like it's I feel like, in some games there are like places that you're fighting a boss or something that's really challenging, and if you have the strength and resistance and the
Yeah,
speed, you can like just about manage to defeat it.
yeah. I feel as well like those kind of
Where they
games as well.
defeat,
Often
yeah,
the items that you collect, you've either bought them at a shop or you've found them around the game, right? And it's like you
mm,
haven't explicitly gone and crafted them, you've kind of picked them up
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
in your
yeah,
inventory.
yeah, and you're sort of using what you've got. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe if potions were more like found throughout the world, maybe it would encourage players to use them more. Like maybe
Mm,
dungeon chests could spawn with a regeneration potion or like I mean the end has regen, is it, or instant health?
it's instant health, I think. Yeah,
Instant health. Why is it instant health? That's kind of lame. Um, but I feel like yeah, certain chests could definitely do with a couple potions in their loot table. Um,
yeah. I feel like instant health potions could be cool if they could stack,
yeah,
and maybe if they were a bit quicker to drink.
yeah. Although we
I
could
mean, actually,
implement that with a
maybe it's
data
not.
pack, right?
But yeah, making instant health potions stack, I think, would be make them magnitudes more useful. Because, like,
Mm,
let's say you could carry 6 instant health potions. Like, if you need to regen quickly, instead of waiting for your hunger to go down and then eating food, you just take an instant health potion and you're back up.
mm,
Or like making them stack to, I don't know, 16 maybe, or
yeah,
something, just so they're not too overpowered. But
or even
like that
eight.
could
We could
definitely,
introduce the eight
yeah,
stack. Yeah, I reckon stackable potions is just like, and it's possible with data packs we could easily change the component. Like when a player holds the potion, it just adds the
yep.
max stack size component. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we can add that component in the brewing. Can you customize brewing recipes?
No,
No.
unfortunately not. I wish you could. That
I
would make
like
it so much cooler.
yeah, it's so weird.
I
Like
wish you could customize all recipes.
yeah,
Um,
I'm hoping I'm
Brewing's the
expecting
main
that
one, I think.
we're gonna get brewing at least. Like I feel like brewing's not even that wouldn't be that hard to data drive. It's like it's a recipe driven system, right? Like surely it takes an input. And yeah, it's literally a takes two items as an input. There's the bottles and there's the uh the input item, and then technically there's the fuel, but that's not really part of the recipe.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be cool if you could change that. One thing is that there's no different items, or except for like splash and lingering potions, but it's all done via components,
Mm,
which I don't know if that would make it easier or harder to do. Probably harder, but
yeah. Mm.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the other thing we could do, like, if we wanted potion effects but didn't want to use the potion system, is we could introduce like vials or something, which are like smaller versions of potions that are craftable and stackable, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
like as part of the data pack, and maybe something like it's a potion plus an extra item in the crafting table, and that turns into like a stack of 16 vials or something, and they're like the potion effect lasts for like, you know, 8 seconds instead of 30 seconds or something, but like or it's like slightly weaker, but they're stackable and you can just keep using them, kind of thing. That could be a
Yeah.
cool item, and maybe then would
Yeah,
encourage
something
players
like
to
that.
use potions more, because then it's like, you still brew the potion, but then you combine it with something in it.
Yeah,
There's a
and
bit
you've
of a
got the
trade-off.
new crafting transformation recipe now, right? Which basically changes the base item without changing editing components, right?
I
So we could
think so.
potentially use
Yeah.
that, I think.
Yeah. Can you also
Was that
change the
released in
count?
1.21.2? I think
I
must have
think
been.
I think it did. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
theoretically,
just
could
released.
use that. That could be cool. Um,
By the
and
way,
then
side note, while we've been recording this, another snapshot has been released
oh,
for 1.21.4.
sh- should we
But
read it out in the podcast or not?
uh we'll put a link in the description. They're
Link in the
basically
description.
unexperimenting uh the winter drop, so that's gonna come out with the next thing, and they got some
What's the winter drop?
creaking,
Oh, the
pale
creaky.
garden, stuff like that.
Right.
And they've got some new finally they added slash attribute based reset. I
Oh,
always wanted that.
thank you. That
I swear it was literally in our wish list
it was in our
podcast,
wish
wasn't
list.
it?
Yeah, it's so stupid that we couldn't. We also wanted a game rule reset though. That was the
Yeah,
other
that
thing.
too.
But yeah, attribute reset is good because it's
Yeah,
stupid having to remember what the base attribute is.
yeah,
Um, yeah, okay, I'll be reading that after this recording. Uh, I guess before we wrap up, should we quickly talk about maybe some late game improvements? Because we've focused a
yeah,
lot on like early game item progression, villages, enchantments, and stuff. But let's say post Ender Dragon, what kind of what can there be more to do in the game? I guess. Um,
yeah. I mean, I feel like if there was, if there was some way to scale the game's difficulty with the player's level, like make mobs stronger somehow, or yeah, I don't know, or like making something more challenging.
mm,
That could be interesting. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know how that would work though.
I have actually. I've thought about. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I don't. I think I've only said it in private. But something that could extend, as like even after the game's beaten, like just extend stuff to do in the world is you could have a set of like decoration blocks, right? That you have to actively go out into the world to collect. Like they're not from the start, they're not fully renewable, right? But then have a system where you can craft a blueprint for that block,
Mm-hmm.
and then they become craftable. So it's like they're not
Yeah.
renewable at the start. You have to go out into the world to find them, but then you can invest a resource into making them renewable. And I think that could be quite cool. I think you can do
Yeah.
that with like well, I mean it was an idea for a data pack I kind of had of like having most of the game be like that, where like every block, uh, you know, like you had to basically unlock recipes as you progressed, kind of thing. Because I think there's a game rule where players can't craft things they don't have unlocked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, but obviously that doesn't
Yeah.
like if you only want a couple blocks. I don't know how you implement that. You would have to have a special crafting system for that.
Yeah, you
Um,
probably would.
but yeah, that's just another cool idea I had is, and then that would like I think add longevity to the world. Like if you wanted to build something, right? You've then got a task. You can go out into the venture into the world, find these blocks, and bring them back,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
Yeah, that could be cool as well.
yeah, I personally, because I play when I play, I usually have a small group of friends that I play with. And we'll usually have the server running during the week, but we'll have a dedicated day that we play it. And so you can jump on the server during the week if you want to like do some mining or something like that. But then we kind of have on our dedicated time to play, we kind of have a goal. So we will do a bastion, or we will conquer the Ender Dragon, or we will like do some trial chambers, like stuff like that. And I really, I'll have to give some praise to the trial chambers. I really enjoyed that edition, and I kind of wish there was more stuff like that. That's like you can return
Yeah,
to it.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like challenging structures that have like an experience in themselves, I
Mm.
think are cool.
And it's like,
Yeah,
and as well, like what I like about the trial chambers, and what I kind of wish that, because there's like a thing, right? The Once you've used the trial vault, it like locks itself forever.
yeah,
I kind of wish that it wouldn't lock itself forever, but maybe would unlock itself maybe after like 5 hours or something, right? Whereas all
yeah,
the like trial spawners reset after half an hour, right? But then the vaults never reset, so you have to keep going and finding more. But I kind of wish there was like a structure you could almost return to. And
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
it's almost there. It's just you can't, rerun it really, which is a little bit annoying to me. Um, but yeah, more things like the trial chambers would be cool. And I feel like with data packs, you could make some cool structures that have some like,
yeah. You certainly could. Although I
um,
suck at designing stuff like that, so
yeah, that's definitely we would draw in Wolfian to help with that one if we were to do some of
yeah. And
those.
I feel like those you could certainly make them either scale with the player's gear or make them like make certain structures just like be more late game. Just say,
Mm,
yeah, like it's really dangerous, so you shouldn't go in there until you've got diamond armor or whatever, and you've got like some enchantments and potions even.
yeah, or like
Um,
add some challenging structures to the end that aren't just end
yeah,
cities.
yeah,
Like imagine if we had more end, like, you know what? If we make this starter pack, I want to add like 3 or 4 interesting structures to the end that provide more late game challenges. Because I mean, yeah, the end cities are cool, but I've done them to death, and it's like
yeah,
you can only do so much end city before you're like, okay, I get the picture. It's an end city, right?
yeah. More challenging structures in the end. I think that'd be cool.
Mm. And like already, like the end gates itself off to like that is late game, right? And then maybe there's certain structures in the world that like you can visit them, but their events don't activate until you have a certain item that you can then give to the altar, which then unlocks something like that. Spawns in like a
Yeah,
wave of mobs or something. I don't know. Uh that's definitely something I feel like late game could, like, more challenging structures could be, and like more destinations, I guess.
yeah.
Because I feel like,
And I certainly think like if you made a custom structure, you
hmm,
could make it scale based on the player's gear
yeah,
as well.
so you could like detect that they're wearing like full netherite and spawn
Yeah,
harder mobs. Yeah,
yeah,
that could
exactly.
be
I
that could be
mean,
quite interesting.
yeah.
So then it's like,
Or you could also do it based on like milestones.
hmm,
Like
I was
if you
like,
defeated the Ender Dragon, if you've done certain thing, whatever.
it's funny. I was like, yeah, you could add like a structure like a training room, and then I was like, oh, trial chambers. But
Yeah.
it's like they kind of don't do that. Like, I mean, they do have 2 levels of difficulty, but if trial chambers scaled
Yeah.
to your gear, that would be quite cool.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be super cool, I think.
I feel like we could even implement that as a data pack. We could like scale the trial chamber up based on your gear, like just
Yeah.
buff mobs around you and stuff. Um, but obviously it would need more thought than that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's probably a good
All right.
spot to leave it. Uh, about the hour 30 mark. Um, yeah. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this new, more casual format, I guess.
Yeah. I
Um,
I I liked it. I definitely enjoyed like sort of going through, coming up with ideas. I think we should definitely do more like this in the future. Um
yeah.
yeah, I feel like yeah, maybe I didn't have so many previous ideas on this topic. Um, but like, yeah, if we chose a different topic, then maybe I'd have some more thoughts and more inputs.
Yeah.
But I think it was fun overall.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.